Welcome back to Pathfinders, a podcast series from RBC Capital Markets, where we uncover the key trends and catalysts shaping the fast-moving world of biotech and pharma. I'm your host, Joe Coletti. In this episode, we continue broadcasting from RBC's Global Healthcare Conference here in New York, and we're talking to Brad Loncar, founder of Biotech TV, a new media channel dedicated to producing independent news and educational content about the biotech industry and the science behind it. Brad, thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here.
So we have the privilege of actually having you here, doing a bunch of interviews with different CEOs and companies throughout the day. But I think we wanted our listeners to maybe learn a little bit more about you first and why you kind of started Biotech TV.
Yeah, so I was running a biotech-focused investment firm. I created a couple ETFs that were biotech-focused, and I've always been a big social media person, which is weird because in real life, I'm a total introvert. Somehow on social media, I'm an extrovert. But I was on Twitter very early, for example, and I've always enjoyed experimenting. So when Twitter started to allow videos, which was, a handful of years before the pandemic, whenever I would go to a conference like ASCO or something like that, I'd grab a analyst friend or a CEO friend, and I do back then the time limit was 2 minutes. So we'd do a very quick little 2-minute video, and I was always shocked at the reaction. I had videos that had 50,000 views or, tons of likes, and the feedback was always amazing. And so I'm very entrepreneurial, and in the back of my head, I always said, there's something there, there's an unmet need for this. So I had always kind of registered that in my mind that this could be a business. And fast forward to a year ago, my investment firm, my ETFs were really cool products, but biotech was tough, for a couple of years. And I just wasn't having fun. I was working hard managing a business that wasn't thriving. And so I said to myself, this is your opportunity to pursue your passion and do videos and turn it into a real thing. And so I did that almost a year ago. So that was June 1st. And, I created a website, and I went to Boston literally for 6 months. And I said, I'm just going to put this out there. And that's what I've been doing. And now it's starting to grow and scale and in the very beginning stages turn into what my vision for it is over the longer term.
That's great. Maybe you can give us a little bit more of an overview, too, about the different ways the channel is trying to bring biotech to life across Biotech TVU, Company News, Bright Minds, Tech and Tours platforms. I'd love for you to elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yeah, those are just kind of loose categories. And part of the main message, if somebody goes to the website and just finds it for the first time, part of the message that I'm trying to send is news is a huge component of it. But it's not just for biotech news. It's to show off cool science, things like that. So some of the most popular videos that I do have nothing to do with news. It's behind the scenes tours of biotech companies. And so I wanted to create something that made it clear that it wasn't just news. And the university one is actually, I think, really cool. To be honest, it hasn't really taken off yet like I'd hope it would. And the idea there is there's so many young people doing interesting, working in labs or doing interesting postdoc work, things like that. And that section of the website is there. If there are any young people out there, you can submit your own content. And so I always say it's like a professional version of what people are doing on Instagram and TikTok. The difference being, if you post something on TikTok, Albert Bourla is probably not going to see it. But hopefully he watches Biotech TV. Albert Bourla might, important people in our industry are part of my distribution network. And so your work as a young person can be profiled on this network where important people might see it.
Now, I think another thing to point out is your impartiality, which is a big part of what you're trying to do. So you've committed to not trading or holding individual biotech stocks while you have editorial control of the channel. Was the transition from expert investor to sort of commentator tricky? Do you miss investing in the biotech markets?
Yeah, I did that because I wanted to go the extra mile, because literally for over a decade, people know me as Brad the investor. And so when I put it out there, one concern that I had is people thinking in the back of their mind, is there an agenda here? Or is he promoting some company that he's investing in or involved with in all of that? And so the only way to quell that type of thing is to do it all the way. And so when I launched this, by the way, I no longer have those ETFs. Like, I sold that firm and like all of that. And so, yeah, I don't hold or trade. I have nothing to do with biotech stocks ever since I've been doing Biotech TV, so that there's no even shadow of a doubt as it relates to things like that. So I think given my background, that was, the right thing to do.
What about your plans going forward? I mean, you talked a little bit about some of the channels. As you continue to sort of grow and expand, what are you sort of aiming for? Are you dreaming big over at Biotech TV for the next phase?
Yeah, I mean, a few things that I would say is that our industry is awesome, but I feel like we all live in the same circle, which is people who follow biotech companies. And that's awesome, but I feel like that audience is probably a couple 100,000 people. There's millions of people who are interested in science, so at the end of the day, I want the million people audience, and
so do we.
Yeah. So there's that, and honestly, I'm kind of exhausted. I've truly been a one-man show in every respect. You can see it here at the conference. I'm recording, then I'm editing, then I'm uploading. I'm scheduling the rest of the week and all of that. And so I want to start scaling, and thankfully, through the support of our sponsors, I've been able to start that. So I hired a really amazing person in Philadelphia who's doing content there. You all know what a hotbed of cell and gene therapy Philadelphia is. And I hired another amazing person in San Diego who's covering that for me. So hopefully that's just the start. And if I had it my way, hopefully some support staff too. So hopefully that'll be coming soon.
So let's maybe shift a little bit to some of the things you're hearing. You've done a ton of interviews with C-level folks at many conferences this year, including this one. When you think about whether it's the macro environment, whether it's specific themes and trends in the biotech space, what are you hearing the most in these conversations?
I just think that we truly are entering a new era of medicine. I was just at the ASGCT annual meeting in Baltimore last week, which is a cell and gene therapy conference. And it's really amazing. People have heard that term CRISPR. Every human being has heard the term CRISPR by now. I would say even my mom has heard it. So if she's heard it, everybody's heard it. And what a lot of people don't know is that's version 1.0 of genetic medicines. And there's some really cool technologies where people are able to do gene replacement, gene writing, all kinds of next level things. And so right now, a lot of that stuff is in animals. That was mostly what was reported on at that conference. But pretty soon it's going to be in humans, and I think there's going to be a lot of cool transformational stuff.
So you hit my key word, transformational, because we talk a lot about transformational innovation just in this entire space. We haven't touched on AI. Just curious, in your conversations with folks, how is AI coming up? How are people talking about AI as part of what they're doing? Is it a little less or a little bit more right now?
Well, I can answer it this way. As somebody who gets pitched by PR people every single day, I've been pitched and I've done 1 million AI stories, and we're here at an investment conference. A lot of your audience is investors. And the one thing I'd say is a media person and an investor, it's the same thing. It's really hard. Everything sounds awesome. You sit down at a table and somebody says, we've got the biggest database and we've got the best algorithm for analyzing it, and we're going to totally revolutionize drug development. There's literally 1,000 people that have that same story, and it all sounds awesome. And the biggest advice that I would have for investors out there is you've got to really understand how to do the due diligence on those types of stories. And I don't have all of the answers, but I think that's going to be one of the biggest investing challenges over the next couple of years, is separating, it's like anything else. There's a whole spectrum of highly credible stuff and, the opposite, and everything in between. And I think AI will revolutionize a lot of things. And I think if you're going to be a successful investor over the next couple of years, you've got to figure out how to separate the wheat from the chaff, essentially.
So we want to give you a big plug here. We want to encourage all our listeners to check out Biotech TV. Can you maybe tell them the website, give us some of the information?
Yeah, it's just biotech.tv.com. I paid $1,000 for that. Could have been worse. It was available. And when I interview someone, the whole video goes on biotech.tv.com. And then on like every social network there is, we put out a clip and say, to see the whole video, click here. And I would say the place that most people use it is LinkedIn. And definitely follow Biotech TV. It's got its own account on LinkedIn itself. And that's really the best way to know when new content is out there.
Excellent. Brad, thanks for stopping by. Good luck with the rest of your interviews today. And it was great to meet you.
Thanks a lot for having me.
That's all for this episode. Thanks again for listening to Pathfinders in Biopharma, brought to you by RBC Capital Markets. Please remember to subscribe to get more great content and be alerted about future episodes. This episode was recorded on May 14th, 2024. If you'd like to learn more or continue the conversation, please visit rbccm.com/biopharma. See you next time.
This content is based on information available at the time it was recorded and is for informational purposes only. It is not an offer to buy or sell or a solicitation, and no recommendations are implied. It is outside the scope of this communication to consider whether it is suitable for you and your financial objectives.